Hi everyone and welcome back to MDriven. Today I'm going to talk about live edit. So live edit is pretty awesome, but we made it a bit better. So to summarize, what we have done is that you now can patch the model, which is very much quicker than uploading the whole model to your MDriven server and waiting for database evolve. You just patch the turnkey server, and that allows you to change derivations, to add classes and attributes and associations, to change everything about state machines, to introduce actions and styles and things, and to change different views. And then you patch, and everything should be good to go within a second instead of waiting maybe 10 seconds like you would for uploading and waiting for a database evolve. So let's go into live edit, and as always I'm going to make sure that I have a fresh turnkey local turnkey install that the live edit is using, and once that is downloaded and unzipped I'm starting it, and I can see this window showing that it's running, and that's good. And then I can head over to live edit window and wait until it pops up. And of course live edit is something that work with live data, and we can do changes to the declarative view models straight in this view in order to get the effects that we want on our UI. Let's do column and row this one up and have all these things in the row and the grid in the column. And then I'm going to say that the column can grow so that it fills the space. And if I add some details, I can have data in these, and I can have data here. So this works great as long as you are running towards an XML, like we do here, use XML file for data. So even if I were to add a new thing and saying that the expression is self something new, I would discover that it says that something new is not something that it recognizes, and it suggests that maybe I want to add a new attribute, so I'm going to do that, and that could be a string, but it still doesn't show up. And why isn't that? Well, the type system actually running in the turnkey doesn't know about this new thing, and it's first when we actually save the model that the turnkey picks up on the new model and restarts and will know about this something new. And to do that save, we can either go here to just do save, but we can also do this one, which we will come back to when we talk about the more complex case when running against an MDriven server. So I'm going to use this one. When we run towards an XML, this pretty much just calls save. So as you saw, quite quickly it showed up my new thing over here. So that's okay. This is great that it's so quick to get new things added to the model. And of course, if we were to check on this something, we also have this something new added in the model. And if we were to rename it, we will get the same problem. Saving it, it will say that this view model is broken. Let's head over to live edit and check it with the CL editor and say it's broken. Did you mean maybe this one? And that was exactly what I meant, and I applied that. Having having applied it, I can see that it renders it, but actually the type system running a turnkey server probably thinks it's called something else still. We can check. So renaming it again, it disappears from here because the type system on the server doesn't know about it on this local turnkey server that we're running here. It has no clue that the name change has been done until I click this patch model, which resaves, and then it shows up again. And then I can use this to store data as well. All right, so that's the basic case. But for the more complex case, where we have the use MDriven server as data, it will work a bit different because the MDriven server stores the data in a database. Now we actually need to update the database again. So to test that, we're gonna head over to this cloud form where we actually can set a MDriven server and we can upload a complete model to that MDriven server so that the database gets the drift of what we're doing. So in order to actually run an MDriven server, I can use these local things. I'm going to do that, but I'm going to just make sure that I have the latest. Once I have the latest, I can take a named pair, and I can have as many as I want, and I can refresh that install because this was apparently installed like last month. So once that's refreshed, I can start those servers. And now I will start an MDriven server and also a new turnkey server. But the one that I'm actually interested in is this MDriven server. So I got 2 new black windows that I'm going to put to the side. Now I know that they're running. Then I say that I want to actually run this model here towards this MDriven server. And then I simply say I need to set the current server. So active MDriven server. And I need to check what port it's running, 5000. That's okay. So the one I want is this, and the standard simplified login for these are user A and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I can check that I have connection, and then I can upload a model here, and I can see that it has applied the changes. And to make sure that it's actually seeing my stuff, I can simply go here and get another attribute. Can leave it at attribute 1 and then upload again and see that it indeed altered the table thing and added the attribute 1 as an nvar card 255. So we're connected. That's good. So when running live edit now, we actually want to use data in that database because that's the case when we're having larger projects, that the XML file seldom is the best place to have a lot of data, because in order to see how our UI performs, etc., it could be necessary to show real production data, and that might be hundreds of objects or thousands or millions that seekers should choose between. So anything you can do with a really strong database engine, you want to also verify that it works with your UI. So instead of simply using the XML file for data, we're going to use the MDriven server. And we're going to see what the settings are, and those are 5000. That's good. And then we restart this one. So now we restarted the turnkey server that backs the live edit, but that turnkey server gets its data from the MDriven server at port 5000. What does that mean for us then? Well, basically it's a restart of the system, so we're gonna make sure that it performs that. Now we were on some other page, so we're gonna just, okay. So I don't know why it had problems just hitting the browser back to make sure that we get into an environment where this turnkey server actually knows the identities. And since we now switched the environment, we don't have any data, so we need to add some new data. Of course, when we run towards an existing system, we would have data, so it's a bit construed in this case, and this works. So what was problematic compared to running the XML from before and now running towards the MDriven server was that as soon as I did something like adding a new column and giving that an expression that wouldn't exist, some yet new attribute, and saying that I want this to actually be a string attribute. Now it's getting crowded here, so I'm going to switch this row to say that it should wrap. Good. But I still don't see this new column because this MDriven server doesn't actually know about it. And in order for me to get it to show before we did this update, which I'm talking about now, I had to go to the cloud for and re-upload the model, because merely saving wouldn't be enough. Saving the model doesn't really tell the MDriven server that there's a new model to use. So in order to, then this could sort of feel like a bit of a speed bump in your development cycle. So in order to address that speed bump, this button that we used before, that when this was set to XML only saved the model. Now what this button does when it's an MDriven server behind it is that it checks what difference have been made in the model since the last time you were here. Since the last time you were here, what changes have been done to the model, and then it tells the turnkey server to slipstream those things into its type system. So patch model immediately brings me the new things available here. But the MDriven server and the database still doesn't know about this. And won't that be a problem then? Can I still sort of write things here? Yes. But since this is new and the MDriven server doesn't know about it, what's included in the patch concept is that these things are made transient on the turnkey server side. They're not existing in the MDriven server. They're transient on the turnkey server, and they are fully configured in your model. So that means that whenever you have done a lot of changes and patched a lot of things and you feel happy about things, you should definitely go here and re-upload the model. But the thing is that you don't have to do this for every simple change. So it will considerably speed up your development. For example, you can do things like adding a new method and implementing the body on that method, saying that self sum, let's take this, yet a new attribute should be assigned to its own value plus an A. And then we could add a button over here that sort of, maybe I should show that as well, because now I go into advanced edit, but I don't actually have to do that anymore because I can be here and do expressions and edit the expression of the button straight from here. And then I just left that as method 1. So now this new button will call method 1. So let's call this one as well to lessen the confusion. And I haven't pressed patch, so whenever I press this, not much happening on this one. But whenever I press patch, what will happen is that the turnkey server will actually quickly reapply the patch of all the changes that it has seen, and then it will restart the type system. So that means that this data will reload, but this data that were in the transient will disappear. So that's an effect of the patching. But after the patching has been done, this one actually does the new thing. So without needing to potentially wait several seconds for the database to evolve and all the model to upload and all the assets to upload and everything to restart, this is actually a very much faster way on large to gigantic models. So this is a good thing. One thing that I particularly like about this is that we can do derivations and things like that and change the derivations and just patch it, because that will be a perfect example. So I'm going to do yet another attribute, and I'm going to say that and that attribute is derived. I can either do that by setting a slash there or by just changing its attribute mode to derived. And then I will need an OCL. So I'm going to say self dot get the new attribute and add something to say that this is derived, just for as an example. And I can save data and I add this new attribute too. But still we have the problem that the turnkey server doesn't really know about this. We need to patch it first. Now it knows, and whenever I press this method, this one follows, which is great. And if I were to write something, it would follow as well, which is great. And of course, this is particularly good when using state machines, because you're always discovering that you should add one more thing to your state machine. So let's try how that would work. I'm going to add a state machine to this one and just do an example with state 1 to state 2, from state 2 to state 3, and from state 3 to state 1 again. And this is going to have a trigger, and we're going to call that, it got to be a new trigger, trigger 1, and this can actually have the same trigger, and this can also have the same trigger. And we can right click this trigger and say that there should be a class action for this trigger, meaning that it should show up an action here. But again, the turnkey doesn't yet know about the changes that just has happened. So we need to patch the model, and maybe we also need to check that we have the trigger here, so we should definitely see the trigger. I'm going to press F5 to reload the whole page. So what we see now is probably a limitation of the patching functionality, or a bug, I would say. I'm going to patch once more because this is highlighted. So I'm going to see if, I'm not entirely sure, because the intention is that the action should show up. So this is a bug, I would say, that I will need to address after this session. But in order to verify that at least we can change a state machine while running, we're gonna head over here and do upload model of the complete thing. And then we have view one thing. And now, yes, of course. So the trigger doesn't really show, because this was an old, an existing thing object, and it doesn't comply, as it's stated here, that doesn't have a default DB value, which should probably be state 1. So now this state is actually out of sync with its machine. So I'm going to create a completely new thing, and then the framework will make sure that this new state machine is initiated to the correct value. I'm going to view that thing. Oh, and I'm going to bring out the state machine value here. So that's the state. And whenever I press trigger 1, I see that it loops through the states. This is good. And what I wanted to show was that I can easily add a new state and say that goes to state 4 instead, and then maybe back to state 3, trigger 1 as well, and heading over here and patching the model. And now I can see that state 4 is included, but maybe I want to have a guard on this, that you can only go to state 4 if self sum string equals, which is my name, so I choose that one so I won't forget what I chose. Save and patch the model. And now, I'm on state 2 and I can't go to state 4, and the default for trigger actions is to be hidden if they are not enabled. So I can't go here unless this one is Hans. Then I can go there, then it shows up. So if this was anything but Hans, it disappears, but now it's okay. And then I can go to state 4, and then this doesn't have to be Hans anymore. And there's all these quite intricate rules that you can have in state machines to help you reduce or not needing to trust all the code. And you can just dynamics of your information, the evolving of the information in state machines like this. It's a great way to document, and it's a great way to make sure that the logic actually does what you need it to do. All right, and that was it. So to summarize, what we have done is that you now can patch the model, which is very much quicker than uploading the whole model to your MDriven server and waiting for database evolve. You just patch the turnkey server, and that allows you to change derivations, to add classes and attributes and associations, to change everything about state machines, to introduce actions and styles and things, and to change different views. And then you patch, and everything should be good to go within a second, instead of waiting maybe 10 seconds like you would for uploading and waiting for a database evolve. Or you could end up waiting longer if you have a gigantic model with a lot of assets. So this is a good speed bump reduction. Thank you for listening.